At the 30th anniversary celebration banquet of the Moo Group, I wore a custom-made champagne-colored mermaid gown and held a glass of wine as I stayed close beside Ethan Gu. I am Cecilia Moo, the only daughter of the Moo family, and also the woman who has been his fiancée for 3 years. Ethan, this is Mr. Lee from Tianqi Group. He's very interested in our South City project. I gently reminded him by his ear, guiding the conversation toward the field he was best at. Ethan immediately understood, a confident smile spreading across his handsome face as he began talking smoothly with the guest. Everyone says Ethan is blessed to have found someone like me, someone who can manage formal occasions and the household. With the Moo family's resources and my support, his Gu Group has risen rapidly in the past 3 years, almost becoming a first-tier enterprise. Miss Moo, you're getting more and more beautiful. An elder who had long been close with the Moo family came over, smiling warmly as he greeted us. So when are you and Ethan going to get things done? We're all waiting for your wedding banquet. The smile on my face didn't shift at all. I simply lifted my glass and lightly tapped his. Uncle Warren, you're teasing me. Ethan's career matters most. I need to support him. Just then, Ethan finished talking with Mr. Lee and walked over, slipping an arm around my waist. The intimate posture was a public declaration of ownership. He smiled at Uncle Warren. Uncle Warren, once I return from Malaysia, Shishi and I will start preparing the wedding. You must come and witness it. My heart tightened for a brief moment. There it was again, always when I'm done, when this project ends. For 3 years, I've heard words like that well over 100 times. As the banquet reached its peak, Ethan, representing the outstanding young generation of entrepreneurs, went on stage to give a speech. Under the dazzling lights, he looked spirited and full of ambition as he eloquently described the grand blueprint of the Gu Group's future. I especially want to thank my fiancée, Cecilia, he suddenly said, turning his gaze toward me, his eyes full of deep affection. Without her support, there wouldn't be the Gu Group of today during these past 3 years. Many of you might not know this. Tomorrow I'll be flying to Malaysia to negotiate a project crucial to the next 10 years of the Gu Group. This may be our last long separation before the wedding. He paused, his voice spreading through the microphone to every corner of the hall, carrying a kind of charm that captivated people. When I come back, we'll get married. Thunderous applause and blessings erupted. I stood there, smiling and waving gently to the guests, but my eyes felt a bit warm. Maybe I was overthinking. He had made that promise in front of all the city's elites. This time, it had to be real, right? After the banquet ended, Ethan's assistant came over to pick him up, saying they needed to go back to the office for an all-night meeting to finalize preparations for tomorrow's trip. He hugged me and pressed a gentle kiss on my forehead. Only after watching his car merge into the stream of vehicles disappearing into the night did I slowly withdraw my gaze, feeling a bone-deep exhaustion. When I returned to the penthouse we shared, the large apartment was empty. Only the sound of my breathing echoed through the space. I had taken 3 shots of strong baijiu for him earlier, and now my stomach churned uncomfortably. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of warm water, and took small sips. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Lena, my best friend. "Cece, are you okay? You didn't look very well tonight." I replied, "Same problem as always. My stomach felt a bit off, but I'm much better now." "You spoil Ethan too much," she wrote back. "You take everything on for him. And his white moonlight, Wendy Lane, didn't she just get divorced and return to the country recently? You'd better keep your guard up." The name Wendy Lane pierced my heart like a thin needle, sudden and sharp. She was Ethan's college classmate, the woman he once loved but could never truly have, the cinnabar mole in his heart. She was also the lingering shadow over these 3 years of my supposed married life. I took a deep breath and typed back. "Got it. Don't worry. I didn't want Lena to worry about me, and I didn't want to admit that deep down, my heart had already been thrown into a raging storm because of this woman's return. I only hoped that Ethan's promise tonight would be enough to calm all this anxiety. I didn't sleep well that night. The burning pain in my stomach tangled with the panic in my heart, keeping me tossing and turning. When I woke up the next morning, the space beside me was still cold. Ethan hadn't come back. I pushed down the disappointment in my chest and got up to pack his luggage for the business trip to Malaysia. He has a mild cleanliness obsession and hates using hotel toiletries. He's also extremely particular about how his dress shirts and suits are paired. For the past 3 years, I've been the one personally taking care of all of this. I folded each freshly ironed piece of clothing and placed it neatly into the suitcase, then put his usual stomach medicine, shaving lotion, and skincare products into his toiletry bag one by one. When I finished everything and looked at the half-full suitcase, a sudden sense of absurdity washed over me. We were like an old married couple who treated each other with polite respect. Everything except two people madly in love. My phone rang. I thought it was Ethan. When I picked it up and looked, it was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Hello, is this Miss Mu, Cecilia?" On the other end was a girl with a slightly affected tone. "Yes, this is she. And you are?" I asked. "I'm Ethan's friend," she said, letting out a soft laugh, a faint trace of pride hidden in it. "His phone died, so he's using mine to let you know he's safe. He's already at the airport and asked me to tell you that everything's fine, so don't worry." My fingers tightened around the phone until the case creaked. Friend? What kind of friend is close enough to him to make this kind of call on his behalf right before he gets on the plane, sounding almost like a declaration of ownership? In my mind, I couldn't help but see Wendy Lane's delicate, helpless-looking face. "Got it. Thank you," I said, using every ounce of strength I had to keep my voice calm and steady. After I hung up, I sat dazed on the edge of the bed for a long time without moving. Sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, scattering dappled patterns across the floor, but I felt cold all over. Maybe I'm overthinking it, I tried to comfort myself. Ethan wasn't someone who didn't know where the line was. To distract myself, I started working through some documents from the Mu group. My father is getting old and his health isn't good, so a lot of company matters fall on my shoulders. That's also why I need this marriage alliance with the Gu family so badly to secure the Mu group's foundation. The entire afternoon slipped away quietly in my busyness. Around dusk, Lena called. Her voice sounded unusually urgent, even carrying a suppressed anger. "Cici, where are you right now? Are you alone?" "I'm at home. What's wrong?" My heart gave a sudden jolt, a bad feeling creeping up on me. "Sit down first. Take a deep breath," Lena said. Her voice paused for a moment, then she spoke slowly, enunciating each word. "I have a friend who's traveling in Malaysia. He just sent me a few photos." My heart stopped. "Open WeChat," she said. Lena said, "I'm sending them to you now." My hand trembled as I opened WeChat. Almost the moment I tapped it, several high-resolution photos popped up. The background looked like the service hall of a city government office, full of exotic architectural details. And the two people in the center of the photos were none other than Ethan Gu. Someone I knew better than anyone in this world, and a petite woman leaning against him. Ethan was wearing the white shirt I had prepared for him. On his face was a bright, genuine smile I had never seen before, pure, effortless happiness. And the woman beside him was Wendy Lane. The two of them were holding up a red booklet together, one that looked unmistakably like a marriage certificate. Wendy was smiling blissfully, her head resting gently on Ethan's shoulder, and the huge diamond ring on her finger glittered so harshly under the light it made my eyes sting. In the bottom right corner of one of the photos, the timestamp clearly showed, taken 1 hour ago. I felt the blood in my entire body freeze instantly. The so-called critical project. The so-called last long separation before the wedding. All of it was a lie, an elaborate, complete lie. He wasn't going on a business trip. He had gone to get married. Just as my mind went blank and I could hardly think, a new message popped up from Ethan on my phone. "Cici, did you get home? Rest early. Love you, miss you." He even added a kissing emoji. In that moment, I didn't feel anger or sadness. All I felt was a deep, bone-chilling nausea. It was as if a huge, cruel cosmic joke had been played right in front of me, and I was standing at the center of it, the ridiculous clown for everyone to see. 3 years of swallowing my pride. 3 years of carefully maintaining this relationship. 3 years of convincing myself that everything would be okay. And all of it shattered, completely, because of a few photos and one hypocritical text message. I stared at the love you, miss you on my screen and suddenly let out a small laugh. Then the laughter grew, louder and louder, until I bent over holding my stomach, but not a single tear fell. So a person really could be this fake. So fake it made you laugh. I didn't know how long I laughed. Only when my chest began to ache did I slowly straighten up. In the mirror across from me, I saw a pale face drained of all color, but the eyes were shockingly bright. It was the look of someone pushed to the edge, finding a strange, quiet clarity where there should have been despair. I didn't reply to Ethan's message, nor did I block him. I simply silenced my phone and tossed it onto the sofa. Then I slowly walked toward our shared walk-in closet. The closet was large enough to be a small showroom. One half was filled with Ethan's suits and dress shirts, arranged perfectly by color and season. The other half held my dresses and everyday clothes. In the center, inside a jewelry display drawer, rested a velvet box. I opened it. Inside was a dazzling diamond ring, the main stone large as a dove egg, surrounded by tiny, brilliant cut diamonds. It was the ring Ethan had placed on my finger 3 years ago when we got engaged. He had said, "Sishi, this ring is called the Eternal Heart. It represents my eternal and unchanging love for you." How ironic that sounded now. I picked up the ring. Its cut was flawless, reflecting cold, sharp light under the lamp. I had treasured it like something sacred, wearing it for 3 years, never taking it off except for showering and sleeping. It had been a sweet shackle, constantly reminding me of my identity as Ethan's fiancée. Clutching it, I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows in the bedroom. Outside, the city lights were sparkling, and the carefully designed landscape lake below shimmered under the night. I didn't hesitate at all. I lifted my hand and hurled the $10 million Eternal Heart with all my strength. The ring traced a small arc through the air, then dropped into the lake with a soft plunk, not stirring even the slightest ripple, almost as if it had never existed at all. After doing this, I felt the massive weight that had pressed on my heart for 3 years sink to the bottom of the lake with it. A wave of unprecedented lightness swept through my entire body. I turned and walked back to the study. From the deepest part of a locked drawer, I took out a black phone with no markings on it. This phone had never been turned on in the past 3 years. It had lain there quietly, like a forgotten promise, my final escape route. I inserted the SIM card. The screen lit up, showing only a simple interface with contacts and dial pad. There was only one name in the contacts, Ian Zhou. I took a deep breath and dialed the number I hadn't called once in 3 years. The phone was picked up almost immediately, no hesitation at all, as if the person on the other end had been waiting for this moment. "Sichi," a deep, calm male voice came through. Just 2 syllables. Yet they carried a quiet strength that soothed something raw inside me. He didn't ask why I hadn't contacted him for so long, nor what had happened. He simply said my name. My eyes stung instantly. 3 years' worth of bottled-up grievances, exhaustion, and helplessness suddenly found an outlet. But I still held myself together. I cleared my throat, forcing my voice to sound steady and controlled. "Ian," I said, though a faint tremble slipped through my tone without me realizing it, "I need your help." There was a short silence. Then Ian's composed voice responded, "Okay. Where are you? I'll come right now." "No," I cut him off. I walked to the window and looked out at the glittering night. Slowly, clearly, I said, "I want you to help me prepare a wedding. Within 3 days, and it has to be the grandest anyone has ever seen." On the other side of the line, his breathing seemed to pause for a split second. "Who's the groom?" he asked, his voice unreadable. "Bookmark." I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, they were clear, cold, and resolute. "You, Ian." At a top luxury beachfront resort in Malaysia, Ethan Gu had just finished a wild celebration. Wendy Lane nestled against his broad chest like a gentle kitten, drawing small circles with her finger. "Ethan, do you think Cecilia will be angry?" Wendy's soft voice was sweet enough to drip, though her eyes held a faint glimmer of smugness. "She'll definitely be angry." Ethan let out a low chuckle and picked up his phone, glancing at the screen. As expected, there were still no messages from Cecilia. Instead of being worried, he felt a surge of satisfaction, an intoxicating sense of control. "Don't worry." He pinched Wendy's cheek lightly, his tone dripping with unquestionable arrogance. "She's just sulking like a little kitten. Sissy loves me more than anything. These past 3 years, everything she's done, for me, for the Goo Group, you know that better than anyone. His eyes glinted with contempt. Besides, the Mew Group is basically a sinking ship, full of holes. They're only staying afloat because the Goo Group is holding them up. Without me, they'd go bankrupt in no time. He understood this better than anyone. A flicker of jealousy passed through Wendy Lane's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by sweetness. She pouted softly. But you and I already got our marriage license. If she finds out and makes a scene, she won't. Ethan cut her off, his tone firm, as if stating an undeniable fact. She's a smart woman. She knows exactly what choice benefits her and the Mew family the most. At most, she'll cry for a few days, throw a small tantrum. He tossed his phone aside, rolled over and pinned Wendy beneath him, lowering his head to kiss her. Between breaths, he murmured, I'd bet anything, within 3 days she'll definitely call me sobbing, begging me to forgive her attitude. And when that happens, I'll coax her a little, buy her a handbag, and she'll go back to being the perfect partner she's always been. In Ethan's eyes, I, Cecilia, was no more than a kite in his hand. No matter how high I flew, the string was always firmly held by him. He could enjoy the scenery of the outside world as he pleased, but the moment he tugged the string, I should obediently return to his side. Ethan, you're so bad, Wendy giggled as she wrapped her arms around his neck. The room was soon filled again with breathy sounds of intimacy. Completely immersed in the pleasure of conquest and his fantasy of the future, Ethan believed he'd made the smartest choice. He had finally obtained the white moonlight he'd longed for, yet he was confident he wouldn't lose me, the useful fiancé, and the powerful Moo family behind me. He had even prepared an excuse for when he returned home. He would tell me he married Wendy only to help her escape the entanglement of her ex-husband, that it was merely a strategic arrangement. And with how much I loved and relied on him, I would believe it without question. What he didn't know was that the kite he thought he had tethered so tightly had already cut its own string the moment he made that arrogant bet. And what awaited him wasn't a fiancé crying for forgiveness, but a storm strong enough to crush all his pride and confidence into dust. Meanwhile, far away back in our city, I was sitting face to face with Ian Joe. We met at Skyline Club, the most exclusive private clubhouse in town, known for its impeccable security and complete privacy. Ian's private jet had landed just hours ago. He still looked a bit travel-worn, but his deep, star-bright eyes remained steady and sharp, as if he could see through everything. He gently pushed a cup of warm milk toward me. He didn't ask how I'd been these 3 years. He didn't question why I suddenly made such a drastic decision. He simply sat there quietly, listening as I recounted, with the calmest voice I could manage, everything I had endured over the past 3 years, and everything that had happened yesterday. When I finished, he stayed silent for a long time. Something complex churned in his eyes, pain, anger, and something else I couldn't quite name, before all of it settled into a low, heavy sigh. Cece, he finally spoke, his voice slightly hoarse. What do you want to do? I'll help you. Those 8 simple words gave me more comfort than all of Ethan's 100 I love yous put together. I want to get married, I said. A wedding so grand that the entire city, no, the entire world, will see it. I met his gaze, unwavering. I want Ethan Goo to know that I, Cecilia Moo, am not something he can put a price on or throw away at will. All right, Ian nodded without a trace of hesitation. Then he reached into the briefcase he had brought with him. He took out a document and slid it toward me. What is this? I asked, puzzled. A prenuptial agreement, Ian Zhao replied, his gaze steady and unquestionable. 51% of all my personal assets will be transferred to your name the moment you sign. No matter what happens between us in the future, they will be yours. I picked up the document and flipped through a few pages. Listed inside were assets ranging from shares in multinational corporations to properties all over the world, along with massive amounts of liquid capital and investment portfolios. Its total value was enough to buy 10, no, even 100, Goo Groups. I stared at him in disbelief. I had thought coming to him was a transaction, a collaboration where each of us got what we needed. I would offer myself in exchange for his help, and he would gain what he once may have wanted, me. But what he offered wasn't a bargain, nor leverage. It was unconditional trust, complete and unwavering. Facing this prenuptial agreement that could drive anyone mad with greed, I felt an unexpected calmness wash over me. I lifted my head and met Ian's deep, steady gaze. There was no calculation in his eyes, not even the faintest trace of it. Only unguarded sincerity, pain for me, and a kind of gentle resolve. He wasn't trying to buy me. He wasn't flaunting some extravagant bride price. He was telling me, in his own way, that I could trust him completely, that he would be the strongest shield behind me. For 3 years I had begged for a sense of security from Ethan Gu and never once received it. And now Ian had handed it to me effortlessly with nothing more than a simple document. My heart felt as if it had been submerged in warm water. The hard, sharp edges I had built around myself began to soften. But I knew this wasn't the time to drown in emotion. I slowly pushed the agreement back toward him. "Ian," I said softly. My voice wasn't loud, but it was unusually clear and steady. "Thank you, but I can't accept this." His brows twitched almost imperceptibly. "Why? Do you still think this is some sort of transaction?" "No." I shook my head and looked straight into his eyes. "It's precisely because it's not a transaction that I can't accept it. If I take this agreement, then how am I any different from Wendy Lane, who married Ethan for money?" I paused, took a deep breath, and finally told him the truth from the bottom of my heart. "I came to you not for your money, Ian. I came because you are you. Because you are the only person I believe has both the ability and the willingness to help me. What I want isn't charity. I want a partnership, one where we fight side by side." Ian gazed at me silently, emotions shifting and deepening in his eyes. After a long moment, the corner of his mouth lifted slightly, forming a faint curve. That small smile softened the natural coldness and distance he carried, making him seem unexpectedly gentle. "All right," he said. "A partnership." Then, right in front of me, he picked up the priceless prenuptial agreement. I thought he was going to put it away, but instead he reached for the lighter on the table and set a corner of the document on fire. Blue flames devoured the paper in seconds, reducing it to wisps of smoke and a pile of ash. "Shishi," he said quietly, watching the last of the ashes fall, "I just wanted you to know, everything I have can be yours anytime." Then he turned to me, calm yet resolute. "Since we're allies, what war trophy do you want?" My gaze drifted through the thin veil of smoke and landed on the sharp lines of his profile. In that moment, I finally understood why my grandfather always said, when we were young, "This boy from the Zhou family will be extraordinary one day." He had a steadiness far beyond his age, a kind of natural authority, and a rare ability to see straight into people's hearts. "I want the Gu Group." I spoke each word slowly and clearly, stating my goal without hesitation. "Good." Ian Zhou smiled, a smile carrying a sharp, unstoppable confidence. "Then we'll treat it as our war trophy." He took out his phone and dialed several numbers, speaking in a few languages I couldn't understand, issuing short and powerful commands. In less than 10 minutes, a temporary team made up of top-tier global talent had assembled online: Wall Street financial analysts, world-class PR strategists, renowned legal experts, and an execution secretary so efficient it was almost frightening. "My team," Ian said as he handed me the phone, "is now your team. Tell them your plan." I didn't feel even the slightest bit intimidated. Over the past 3 years, in order to help Ethan Gu, I had learned more about the Gu Group than Ethan himself. Every project, every financial transaction, every potential risk point, it was all engraved in my mind. I spoke into the phone, analyzing everything calmly and clearly. Right now, Gu Group has placed all of its bets on the new energy project in Malaysia. Their cash flow is already tight. To secure this project, Ethan has practically mortgaged most of the company's fixed assets. That is their greatest vulnerability. Our first step is to ensure that this project collapses completely. Second, I want a wedding that puts every media spotlight on me. The date is 72 hours from now. Third, once the wedding ends, we begin the official acquisition of the Gu Group. On the other end of the line, Ian's team paused briefly before erupting into rapid planning and execution. Data models, PR strategies, legal frameworks, everything was drafted in an astonishingly short amount of time. I looked at Ian Zhou, once just the quiet, gentle older boy next door, and saw that he had grown into a man who commanded empires with a word. He sat there calmly, occasionally giving one or two concise instructions, and it felt as if an invisible net was forming under his guidance, silently closing in on Ethan and his goo group. "What about the wedding plan? Any thoughts?" Ian asked as he ended the last call and turned back to me. His team's efficiency was terrifying. They had already prepared 3 different luxurious wedding designs, each extravagant in its own style. I shook my head and pushed the proposals aside. "These aren't important, Ian. I'm not having this wedding for happiness. It's a declaration that I, Cecilia Moo, am not a woman who can be tossed aside at someone's convenience, so I have only one requirement." He looked at me steadily. "What is it?" "It needs to be fast, and it needs to be explosive." I met his gaze, the fire of revenge burning fiercely in my eyes. "I want Ethan Goo to see this wedding when he's at the peak of his pride. I want the entire city to know that I left him and married a man 100, no 1,000 times better." Ian's gaze remained calm and deep, as if he could see through all the strength I pretended to have and touch the softest, most wounded part of me. "Okay," he said again, nodding. "No extra comfort. Just one word, but it landed with the weight of 1,000 pounds. He picked up his phone, dialed an internal line, and asked Anna to come in. Soon, a blonde woman with refined makeup and a sharp, capable aura walked through the door. She was Anna, Ian Zhao's chief secretary. "Anna," Ian said in a calm tone that allowed no room for doubt, "I need to hold a wedding with Miss Moo here in this city within 72 hours. Use the company's highest-level resources. Invite every media outlet we can possibly invite, and keep the groom's identity classified until the ceremony begins." A flicker of surprise passed across Anna's face, but she didn't ask a single question. She simply nodded professionally. "Understood, sir." Then she turned to me with a slight bow. "Miss Moo, I look forward to serving you." In the hours that followed, I truly witnessed, what it meant when the machinery of a business empire operated at full force. It was terrifying. The venue was originally the most exclusive state guest hotel in the city, fully booked for the next 3 months. But after a single phone call from Ian, they voluntarily cleared their entire schedule for 3 days later. For the wedding gown, the world's top haute couture houses airlifted their latest season's masterpieces overnight, exclusively for me to choose from. As for the guests, Anna drafted a list so expansive it included top figures from nearly every global field: corporate titans, political elites, academic giants, and even several members of foreign royal families. Meanwhile, I devoted all my energy to dismantling the Goo Group. I disclosed every piece of internal information I knew, without holding anything back, to Ian's financial team. The so-called trade secrets Ethan once bragged about, the bargaining chips he flaunted, every one of them became the sharpest blades aimed straight at his heart. To maintain the illusion of financial strength, the Goo Group fabricated an extremely polished set of financial statements, I explained coolly. The real gaps in their finances are here. Their connection with the Malaysian partners was arranged through a middleman named Raymond Chang. He's greedy and timid, the perfect weakness to exploit. Inside the company, several shareholders have already grown dissatisfied with Ethan's reckless decisions. We can approach them. I laid everything out clearly, logically, and with precision. On the other end of the call, the Wall Street experts initially reacted with surprise, but before long, their voices carried unmistakable respect. Ian sat quietly across from me, listening attentively. Occasionally, when I paused to drink water, he would hand me a fresh glass. His eyes never left me. In them, I saw admiration, concern, and a heat I had never seen from him before. Time passed second by second. The 72-hour countdown stretched tight like a drawn bowstring. On one end of that string was the net Ian and his team were weaving, tight, intricate, inevitable. Everything was progressing with flawless precision. On the other end was Ethan Goo, completely unaware. He was still basking in the thrill of winning his beloved woman and the fantasy of securing his super project. Occasionally, he felt annoyed that I still hadn't contacted him. But that irritation quickly dissolved beneath his arrogance, the belief that everything was firmly in his control. He even took the time to send me a few texts. "Sichi, still mad? Don't make trouble. I'm really busy here. I'll bring you a gift when I'm back." "Why aren't you replying? You're being immature. My patience is limited. Don't test my bottom line." I stared at the messages and felt nothing. No anger, no heartbreak, only amusement. I didn't reply. I simply took screenshots and sent them to Lena. She responded instantly with a barrage of vomiting emojis. Just wait, Lena added. I may or may not have accidentally leaked the mysterious wedding invitation to a couple of your big-mouth girlfriends. I guarantee that by tomorrow morning, the news will reach that jerk Ethan's ears. I let out a soft laugh. Good job ruining her day, I replied with an emoji. On the second day of the countdown, a silent storm began spreading quietly through the upper-class social circles. A beautifully designed, yet incredibly mysterious electronic invitation started landing precisely on the phones of every influential figure, through all kinds of discreet channels. On the cover was my name, Cecilia Mu, in elegant calligraphy, set against a blurred, starry background. The content was simple. You are cordially invited to the Grand Palace Hotel on the evening of date to witness Miss Cecilia Mu's wedding of the century. P.S. The groom will remain the biggest surprise of the night. That one line ignited 1,000 waves. Cecilia Mu? The Cecilia from the Mu family? Isn't she Ethan Gu's fiancée? What's going on? Wasn't Ethan supposed to be on a business trip to Malaysia? Why is his fiancée suddenly hosting a wedding back home? And the groom is a secret? What kind of move is this? Is this Ethan trying to surprise her? No way. I heard from someone inside Gu Group that Ethan will be in Malaysia for at least half a month. The timing doesn't match at all. Don't tell me Cecilia dumped him and found someone else? The moment that speculation dropped, a burst of laughter followed. Impossible. Everyone knows Cecilia is madly in love with Ethan. And besides, in the entire city, who could compare to Ethan? The Mu family is practically being held afloat by the Gu Group. She wouldn't dare offend him. Rumors and gossip spread through the wives' circles, luxury social clubs, and supercar groups like a virus. And naturally, the news quickly reached Ethan in Malaysia. A childhood friend of his sent him a screenshot of the invitation, along with a teasing message. Not bad, man. Controlling such a huge surprise wedding from overseas? What show is your Cecilia putting on for you? When Ethan saw the invitation, his first reaction was disbelief, absurdity. He frowned and zoomed in to examine my signature. He recognized it. It was indeed mine. His expression darkened. What's wrong, Ethan? Wendy Lane asked as she stepped out after finishing her facial treatment, wearing a silky robe, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. Ethan handed her the phone and let out a cold snort. Look at your good friend, already stooping to these low tricks to pressure me. A flash of panic crossed Wendy's eyes, but she quickly forced a casual smile. She must have heard something and is bluffing to get your attention. Women love little theatrics like this. Ethan agreed immediately. The more he thought about it, the more he believed this had to be my scheme. I must have been staging a fake wedding to throw him off, trying to force him to abandon his critical project and fly back to reassure me. Naive. The corner of his mouth lifted into a cold, mocking smile. His eyes were filled with disdain toward what he considered my petty tricks. Instead of anger, he felt amused. He could already imagine how ridiculous I would look in 2 days when the wedding proceeded with no groom in sight. When I stood there humiliated in front of the entire city, he picked up his phone and replied to his friend, "Just wait for the show. Let's see how she ends this farce." Then he opened my chat window and typed, "Sichi, I didn't expect you to be this impatient. Using this kind of stunt to get my attention only makes you look cheap. Behave and wait for me to come back." He typed that message, but after thinking for a moment, he deleted it. No, he couldn't reply. He wanted me to wait in anxiety and fear, to make me deeply realize how terrifying the world was without him. He wanted me to pay for this stunt, to feel consequences. So he tossed his phone aside and completely ignored it. He thought he was the mighty hunter, watching his prey make one last futile struggle. He had no idea that the roles of hunter and prey had already quietly reversed. What he believed to be a childish trick was actually the guillotine prepared just for him. Meanwhile, at the Grand Palace Hotel, the eye of the storm, everything was progressing with unprecedented speed. I stood in casual clothes at the center of the vast main banquet hall. World-class planners, florists, and lighting designers rushed around me, turning every idea I mentioned into flawless reality. Anna walked over and handed me a tablet. "Miss Mu, These are the hosts selected according to your requirements. 2 are top national anchors, and 1 is an internationally renowned talk show host. I glanced at the list and tapped one at random. This one. Anna swiped to the next page. These are the latest RSVP results. Out of the 500 invitations we sent, 498 have confirmed their attendance. The remaining 2, one is conducting scientific research in Antarctica, and the other is currently aboard the International Space Station. I nodded. The result didn't surprise me at all. No one would refuse an invitation coming from Ian Zhao. And the media? I asked. Top 20 leading global media outlets have all dispatched their best teams. The event will be live-streamed worldwide. On the evening of the third day, the entire city seemed to ignite with excitement over this sudden, monumental wedding. The main road leading to the Grand Palace Hotel was placed under temporary traffic control. One after another, limited edition luxury cars rolled through under flashing police escorts. The people stepping out were faces typically seen only on the covers of financial magazines or in international news broadcasts. Each of them arrived in formal attire, wearing perfectly practiced social smiles. Yet deep in their eyes, curiosity and anticipation flickered uncontrollably. Everyone wanted to know, who was the mysterious groom? Who was capable of making Cecilia Mu, the Mu family heiress, openly break with Ethan Gu? Who could summon such a staggering assembly of global elites? Who was important enough for the world to hold its breath? Inside the main hall, the venue had been transformed into a dreamlike paradise. Tens of thousands of premium white roses, air-shipped from the Netherlands, formed an endless sea of flowers. From the ceiling hung countless cascades of crystal and diamond lights, like galaxies pouring from the heavens. The media had gone insane. Flash after flash lit up the hall as reporters tried to capture every corner of this unimaginable extravagance. My God, this scale is insane. How much did this cost? This isn't money anymore. This is power. Who on earth is the groom? I swear we're witnessing history tonight. Meanwhile, I sat in the private dressing room backstage, allowing the world's top styling team to put the final touches on my makeup. In the mirror, a face both familiar and unfamiliar stared back at me. The exquisite makeup concealed every trace of exhaustion and hurt, leaving only a pair of stunningly bright eyes. But those eyes held none of the shyness or joy a bride should have. Only a cold, sharp determination. A cutting edge. The gown I wore was a one-of-a-kind haute couture wedding dress that Dior's head designer had created overnight exclusively for me. The skirt was embedded with exactly 9,999 tiny South African diamonds, shimmering under the lights as if I were wrapped in the entire night sky. "Sichi, you look beautiful today," Lena said quietly behind me. Her eyes were slightly red as she looked at my reflection in the mirror. She was probably the only person in the world who understood what kind of fierce, desperate battle was hidden behind this extravagant wedding. I glanced at her through the mirror and smiled faintly. "Why are you crying? You should be smiling." "Yeah, smiling," she said, voice trembling. "Smiling because you finally see someone's true colors. Smiling because you finally have the courage to break free from that cage disguised as love." A gentle knock sounded on the door. Anna stepped in and bowed respectfully. "Miss Mu, the auspicious hour has arrived. Mr. Zhao is already waiting outside." I took a deep breath. With Lena supporting me, I slowly stood up. The heavy skirt trailed across the floor, making a soft rustling sound, like the beginning of a farewell song. When I pushed open the dressing room door, the noise outside seemed to stop instantly. Ian Zhao stood at the end of the carpet. He wore a perfectly tailored black handmade suit. His posture was straight and steady, his tall frame outlined by the soft lighting, highlighting the sharp structure of his features. The eyes that usually carried a distant, cold indifference were now fixed on me without wavering, filled with an intensity I had never seen before, something burning and overwhelming. He stood there silently, yet he felt like the center of the universe, radiating a powerful presence that couldn't be ignored. My heart skipped a beat, unexpected and uncontrollable. Holding up my skirt, I walked toward him through the long corridor. With every step, scenes from the past 3 years flashed rapidly through my mind. Ethan's sweet lies, his detached indifference, his obsession with Wendy, and my own humility and endurance. By the time I stopped in front of Ian, those memories froze, shattered, and dissolved into nothing. Ian extended his hand toward me. His palm was broad and warm. "Ready?" he asked, his voice low and gentle. I placed my cold hand into his. "Ready." From this moment on, I was no longer Ethan Gu's fiancée, Cecilia Mu. I was the wife of Ian Zhou. He tightened his grip around my hand, then turned and walked beside me toward the grand doors leading to a new world. When the towering golden doors of the banquet hall slowly opened and Ian and I stepped out together, the entire world seemed to fall into silence. Every conversation, every musical note, every clink of glasses vanished in an instant. Thousands of eyes turned toward us at once, sharp as spotlights. Countless flashes erupted simultaneously, illuminating the red carpet beneath our feet as bright as day. Shock, confusion, and disbelief were written across every face. They recognized me, yet the man beside me left them utterly stunned. Who is he? What kind of man has a presence strong enough to make Cecilia abandon Ethan? What kind of background and power does he possess to make the world's elite willingly stand as the backdrop of his wedding? Those questions filled the minds of everyone present, and through the global live stream, they spread to every viewer around the world. Meanwhile, inside the presidential suite of the Hilton Hotel in Malaysia, a small celebration banquet was underway. Ethan Gu was in high spirits, raising his champagne glass and drinking heartily with several core members of the project team. He had done it. Just an hour ago, he officially signed the billion-dollar new energy cooperation agreement with the Malaysian side. Once this project succeeded, the market value of Gu Group would at least triple. And he, Ethan Gu, would become the hottest rising star in the country's business world. Congratulations, Mr. Gu. Mr. Gu, you're truly impressive for someone so young. Compliments and flattery poured over him endlessly. Ethan basked in all of it, already seeing himself standing at the peak of a business empire. Wendy Lane, dressed in an extravagant gown, floated through the crowd like a proud peacock, accepting congratulations with the posture of a hostess. "Ethan, you were amazing," she said, eyes full of adoration. "This is just the beginning," Ethan replied confidently, lowering his head to kiss her lips. Just then, a young assistant in the corner suddenly let out a panicked gasp. "Mr. Gu, look, something huge is happening back home." Ethan frowned in irritation. "Why are you yelling? What is it?" The assistant's hands trembled as he handed over his phone. "Here, look. It's a wedding, a global live stream." On the screen, a wedding was being broadcast live worldwide. Miss Cecilia Mu's wedding. Ethan's eyes snapped to the screen. When he saw the unbelievably extravagant venue, he froze for a moment, then let out a contemptuous laugh. "Oh, so she really went through with it," he sneered. "Quite the production. Let's see which random nobody she dragged in to play groom with her." With amusement, he raised his glass, ready to enjoy what he thought would be my humiliation. Wendy leaned closer, smiling smugly as well. On the live stream, the grand doors of the banquet hall opened. I stepped out slowly, wearing the diamond-studded wedding gown. "She dressed up nicely, I'll give her that," Wendy muttered with a sour tone. Ethan said nothing. His eyes had locked onto the man standing beside me, just a back view, just a side profile. Yet it sent a suffocating, inexplicable pressure crashing into him. Who is that man? His brows knitted instinctively. Others began crowding around, staring at the screen. No idea who he is. Never seen him. But that kind of presence, he's definitely not ordinary. As the discussions buzzed, the live stream camera slowly zoomed in, starting from the way Ian and I held hands, tracing upward, until it finally landed on Ian Zhou's sharply defined face. In that instant, the entire presidential suite fell into absolute, deathly silence. Everyone's expressions froze. Ethan's pupils shrank violently to the size of a needlepoint the moment he recognized that face. The smile on his lips didn't even have time to fade, it simply twisted into something grotesque and stiff. His vice presidents turned ghost pale. One of them trembled so hard he dropped his champagne glass to the floor. Crash! The sharp sound echoed painfully in the suffocating quiet. That's... One of the vice presidents stammered, his voice shaking like he'd just witnessed something out of a nightmare. "It's... him, isn't it? That man, that's... the one who said to never appear in public. The ruler of the Zhou Empire. Ian Zhou." Those 4 words detonated inside Ethan Gu's mind like a bomb. He staggered back a step, staring at the screen in complete disbelief. That man, the one spoken of in business legends like a mythical figure. The man he had tried every possible connection to meet, spent ridiculous sums of money just to get close to, yet couldn't even reach the man's assistant. The man who controlled the lifeline of global finance. The man whose single sentence could collapse a nation's economic system. And now, that man had become the groom of the woman Ethan Gu had abandoned. No, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Ethan muttered, his face turning paper white. He felt his entire worldview collapse into dust within seconds. The Gu Group he was so proud of, the billion-dollar project he just signed, in front of this man, they were nothing more than dust. And the woman he had always treated as a burden, a tool, Cecilia, had boarded an aircraft carrier he didn't even qualify to look up at. A huge wave of absurdity and fear swallowed him whole. The champagne flute slipped from his numb fingers, crashing to the floor and shattering. Golden liquid splashed across his expensive suit pants, but he didn't even notice he had lost completely, utterly, to the point of devastation. The moment he arrogantly made that 3-day bet, he had already lost everything. The morning after the wedding, I woke up on a soft, oversized bed. Sunlight filtered through the heavy curtains, casting a golden stripe across the floor. Beside me was Ian Zhao's sleeping face. Without his usual daytime sharpness and distance, his features in sleep were softened, relaxed, like a child who had finally let down all his defenses. We hadn't done anything last night. After the wedding ended, he brought me to this villa halfway up the mountain. He said he bought it years ago, but never lived in it, because it lacked a woman who belonged there. He carried me into the bedroom, helped me out of the heavy gown, tucked me under the blanket, and then pressed the softest kiss onto my forehead. "Rest well, Cixi," he said. "From today on, no one will ever be able to hurt you again." Then he slept on the sofa beside the bed, giving me space, giving me respect. Watching him breathe peacefully now, my heart tightened with a complicated, overwhelming mix of emotions. In one night, this man gave me the kind of wedding women could only dream of, the kind that commanded awe from the entire world. He gave me the highest honor and dignity, yet also the gentlest, most thoughtful protection. My phone was vibrating violently on the nightstand. I didn't even need to look to know it was Ethan. From the moment the wedding live stream ended, his calls and messages hadn't stopped. I ignored them. I got out of bed and pulled the curtains open. The whole city stretched before my eyes. The morning light soft, the sea of clouds rolling, beautiful like a painting. I stood there overlooking the city I had lived in for over 20 years, and for the first time, felt truly powerful. I no longer needed to depend on anyone. I no longer needed to endure anyone. I was my own strength. A soft sound came from behind me. Ian was awake. "Morning," he said, his voice still rough with sleep. "Morning," I replied with a smile. After washing up, we went downstairs together to have breakfast. The long dining table was filled with an array of beautifully prepared breakfast dishes. Anna was already waiting nearby, and the moment we came downstairs, she stepped forward to report. "Sir, Miss Moo," she said, handing me a tablet. "Gu Group has made a move." On the screen was Gu Group's real-time stock price chart. The market had been open for less than 10 minutes, and the stock had already hit limit down. The news of last night's wedding had triggered massive shockwaves across global financial markets. Every investor and partner associated with Gu Group had chosen to withdraw or freeze cooperation immediately. Especially the Malaysian project, Anna added. Their parent company issued an official statement at dawn, unilaterally terminating all cooperation with Gu Group. I looked at the plunging green line collapsing thousands of points downward like a waterfall. My heart remained calm. All of this had been within my expectations. "Why?" Ian suddenly asked casually, as if discussing the weather. "Why did they terminate the cooperation?" Anna paused, then quickly understood. Because their parent company was fully acquired by Zhao Corporation late last night. The hand holding my coffee cup paused slightly. I lifted my gaze toward Ian. He continued cutting into his eggs with a serene, elegant expression, as if he had merely mentioned a trivial detail. Only then did I realize he had done far more for me than I ever imagined. He didn't just give me a wedding. Long before I even noticed, he had already cleared away the biggest obstacle in front of me. He didn't boast, didn't announce it, didn't ask for praise. He simply paved the entire road quietly for me. What about Ethan Gu now? I asked. Anna replied, from what we know, he flew back overnight from Malaysia, should have just landed. A professional smile tugged at her lips. But I believe what he's facing now is far more than just a collapsing stock price. A breaking financial news alert popped up on the tablet screen. Breaking: Gu Group is officially under investigation by the Securities Regulatory Commission for suspected large-scale financial fraud and commercial misconduct. Cutting off the lifeline. This was Ian Zhao's true style. Swift, precise, lethal. A strike that left no room to breathe. At that very moment, Ethan was riding in a speeding taxi when he saw the news that his company had been placed under investigation. He hadn't slept all night. His bloodshot eyes and haggard expression made him look like a gambler who had lost everything. He couldn't understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Just moments ago, he had been the shining star of the business world, the man with $1 billion project, the man with the woman he desired in his arms, the man envied by everyone. But in the next moment, he had become the city's biggest joke. His company was on the brink of bankruptcy. And the white moonlight he had sacrificed everything for, Wendy, quietly distanced herself the moment she heard he might lose everything, claiming she felt unwell. He frantically called me, texted me. Cece, let me explain. There were reasons I married Wendy. Cece, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Please give me another chance. Please. Why are you doing this to me? Were the 3 years we shared all fake? Pick up, Cece. Answer the phone. Cece, answer me. Every message disappeared into a void. And when he saw the breaking news about the investigation, the last thread of his sanity snapped completely. Financial fraud, commercial misconduct, these were Gu Group's deepest secrets. Other than him and a few senior outsiders could never have known, unless there was an insider. A terrifying realization struck Ethan Gu like lightning. There was only one person in this world who understood his company's internal structure, its financial weaknesses, and even the small tricks he had buried in certain contracts. Mu. Cecilia Mu. Ethan's entire body began to shake violently. He finally understood. This wasn't an accident. This was a deliberately planned, precision strike aimed straight at him. And the woman he thought was fragile, naive, dependent on him, the woman he believed couldn't live without him, was actually the most lethal sniper in this entire ambush. He grabbed his backup phone and dialed my number. This time, the call connected. Cecilia. Ethan screamed the moment the line opened. His voice was already hysterical. It was you. You did all this, didn't you? You leaked the company's secrets, don't lie to me. I was sitting in the garden of the villa, leisurely enjoying afternoon tea. Warm sunlight washed over me while a gentle breeze carried the scent of flowers. I set the phone on speaker mode, placing it on the table, then used a small silver spoon to stir my tea calmly. Mr. Gu, I said lazily, a soft hint of a smile in my voice. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Don't play dumb with me. Ethan's voice grew shrill and piercing from rage. You venomous woman, I must have been blind to think you were kind. How could you do this to me? How I did this to you, I echoed slowly. Did I force you to fly to Malaysia and marry another woman? Did I force you to hollow out your own company for that project? Did I force you to falsify financial reports? You. He was instantly choked speechless. I lifted my cup and took a delicate sip of tea before continuing. Ethan, have you ever considered that everything you're facing now is simply the consequence of your own choices? You chose betrayal. You chose deceit. You chose shortcuts and fraud. Now you're just paying the bill for those choices. Paying the bill? Ethan let out a hysterical laugh, like he'd heard the most ridiculous thing in the world. You think just because you married Ian Zhou, you're untouchable now? Let me tell you something, Cecilia. I'm not done with you. I'll destroy your reputation. I'll make sure everyone sees what kind of woman you really are. I let out a soft, contemptuous laugh. I'll be waiting, but I'm afraid you won't get the chance. I paused for a moment, then my voice dropped, turning cold and sharp like a blade cracking through ice. Oh, Mr. Gu, I forgot to tell you something. You owe me a lot more than just 3 years of my youth. What do you mean? For the first time, fear leaked into his voice. Nothing much. I replied, my tone carrying a cruel hint of satisfaction. Just that this is only the beginning. Everything you took from my family, I will make you pay back double. As for what you owe me personally, I let out a small exhale. You can use your precious goo group as interest. Before he could erupt again, I hung up cleanly. Overnight, the once iconic goo group headquarters had turned from a symbol of power into a crumbling structure battered by storm winds. Crowds of suppliers demanding payment, furious investors, and sharp-nosed reporters gathered at the entrance daily. Employees were panicking. Resignations poured in like waves. Ethan Goo was like a wild beast trapped in a cage, thrashing desperately in all directions, but finding no escape anywhere. He tried reaching out to the business partners who used to call him brother, but none of them answered his calls. Those who did pick up fed him excuses and polite lies. He went to the bank to apply for a loan, only to be told that Goo Group's credit rating had dropped to the lowest tier. Everyone was avoiding him like he carried a plague. He finally understood what it meant to fall from a tree and watch all the monkeys scatter, and what it meant for a crumbling wall to be pushed by everyone. But the final straw, the one that broke him completely, came from the woman he had sacrificed everything for. Wendy Lane. On the first day of the crisis, Wendy acted like a gentle, understanding angel. She clung to Ethan's arm, whispering comfort, telling him she would stay by his side no matter what happened. Ethan was moved to tears. He felt the whole world had abandoned him, except Wendy, his true love. He transferred the last bit of liquid funds he had directly to her. "Use it for now," he told her. "Don't let yourself suffer." But by the second day, Wendy changed. She began complaining the housemaids had left. Complained that the luxury boutiques she frequented no longer dared to let her buy on credit. Complained that the wealthy wives who used to flatter her now mocked her behind her back. By the third day, when Ethan failed to respond quickly to her messages because he was drowning in the company's crisis, she exploded over the phone. "Ethan Goo, do you even care about me anymore? Do you know what kind of hell I'm living in right now? I must have been blind to give up all those amazing suitors just to be with you, useless trash." Ethan was scolded like a dog, feeling furious and wronged. He wanted to explain, wanted to tell her he was doing everything he could, but Wendy didn't give him the chance. "I don't care. I want to see the newest Hermes bag tomorrow. If not, we're done." She hung up straight after throwing down that ultimatum. And that phone call was what snapped Ethan awake. For the first time, he remembered what the 3 years with me had been like. No matter how severe the company's problems were, I had never complained. I stood by him quietly, analyzing, solving problems, even using the Moo family's connections to patch the holes he created. He used to think all of that was natural, something he deserved. Now he realized just how rare and precious that devotion had been. He sent someone to investigate Wendy's bank records. The results chilled him to the bone. The money he transferred to her was being moved bit by bit into a mysterious overseas account. And he also learned that recently, Wendy had been getting very close to a European tycoon in his 60s. She had already secured her next target. The pure, perfect love he worshipped, his so-called white moonlight, was nothing more than a calculating, vain parasite. She didn't love him, Ethan Goo. She loved the lavish lifestyle he provided. That night, Ethan rushed home. He wanted to confront Wendy, tear off her mask. But when he opened the door, he was greeted by an empty house. In the walk-in closet, all of Wendy's designer clothes, bags, and jewelry were gone. Only one thing remained on the table, a divorce agreement already signed by her. Ethan collapsed to the floor, laughing hysterically as he stared at the cold document, laughing and laughing, until tears streamed down his face. After this series of betrayals and crushing blows, the last shred of his pride was completely pulverized. He finally understood. The only person who might still save him was the woman he had hurt the most. And so, he made a decision so humiliating even he could barely believe it. To beg me, that was the humiliating decision Ethan finally made. He found out the address of Zhou Corporation's headquarters and spent several days haunting the entrance like a ghost. Security guards chased him away more than once. Pedestrians pointed and whispered about him. But he endured all of it. He had only one thought left. He had to see me. Finally, on a stormy afternoon, his chance came. The Zhou Corporation motorcade slowly exited the underground garage. Ethan recognized the long black Rolls-Royce in the center, Ian Joe's personal car. Like a madman, Ethan broke through the security barrier, throwing himself in front of the car. The screeching brakes cut through the downpour. The convoy came to a sharp, stable stop. The rear window lowered slowly. My face appeared, calm, expressionless. Ian sat beside me, his gaze sweeping lazily over Ethan, standing outside in the rain. His eyes held no emotion, only the kind of indifference one might show toward a piece of trash on the sidewalk. Ethan was soaked from head to toe, his hair plastered messily to his forehead, his expensive suit stained with mud. He stared at me, his eyes filled with tangled emotion, regret, unwillingness, and a trace of pathetic pleading. "Cece," he rasped, his voice hoarse. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. I simply looked at him quietly. My silence made him flinch, but he forced himself to keep going. "I know I was wrong. Cece, I was a bastard. I wasn't human. I shouldn't have been blinded by Wendy, that bitch," he choked. "But I always loved you, I did. Everything you did for me these 3 years, I remember it all. Please, give me another chance. Let's start over." His voice broke, and then, with a splash, he suddenly dropped to his knees in the rain. Gasps erupted from the guards and passersby. The once high and mighty CEO of Goo Group was now kneeling like a stray dog, begging his ex-fiancée for forgiveness. I watched the pitiful sight before me, and to my surprise, felt no satisfaction, only a deep, indescribable exhaustion. "Ethan Goo," I finally said, my voice as cold as the storm outside. "Get up. Stop humiliating yourself here." "I won't get up unless you forgive me," he cried desperately, clinging to the last rope of his sinking ship. "Cece, you're soft-hearted. You always were. Didn't you say, no matter what mistakes I made, you'd always forgive me?" A bitter smile tugged at my lips. "Yes, I said that," I acknowledged softly. Then my tone sharpened, cutting like a blade. "But you seem to have forgotten. That promise only applied back when I loved you." Ethan's face turned ashen instantly. I looked straight into his collapsing gaze and shattered the last of his delusions, one word at a time. "You never loved me, Ethan. Not before. Not now. You loved my value. Before, you loved the Moo family's resources I provided you. Now you love the power standing behind me, Ian Zhao's influence." I looked down at him from inside the car, my expression devoid of mercy, only ice-cold judgment. "But unfortunately for you, Ethan," I paused, letting each syllable fall like a verdict, "you no longer hold any value to me. Your value is 0. And with that, I turned away from him completely. "Drive," I told the chauffeur calmly. The window rose, shutting him out, along with the last shred of hope he would ever have. The window rose slowly, shutting out Ethan Goo's face, twisted with despair and disbelief. The Rolls-Royce pulled away smoothly, its tires slicing through a puddle. Water splashed upward, soaking him in another layer of mud. In the rearview mirror, I saw him still kneeling in the exact same spot, like a statue abandoned by the entire world. But Ethan's kneeling didn't earn him any sympathy or any turnaround. Instead, the video captured by bystanders spread across the internet at lightning speed. It became the final straw that crushed Story Group. The company's reputation plummeted to the bottom of the abyss. The board held an emergency meeting and passed, unanimously, the motion to remove Ethan Goo from his chairman and CEO positions. He was stripped clean and thrown out of the very company he'd built with his own hands. And once Story Group lost its backbone, it became a fallen whale in the sea, instantly attracting swarms of sharks. Just when every major investment force was eager to tear off a piece of the carcass, a brand new company called Swallow Capital suddenly emerged. It had been registered for less than half a month, yet its background was powerful and mysterious. With overwhelming force, it swept aside all competitors in mere days, becoming the sole and final acquirer of Story Group. The final acquisition meeting was held in Story Group's largest conference room. I, as the CEO and chief representative of Swallow Capital, sat in the seat that once belonged to Ethan Goo. On my left was the team Ian Zhao assigned to me, top-tier Wall Street lawyers and accountants. Across from me sat the remaining senior shareholders of Story Group, their faces ashen, their eyes filled with fear, disguised as respect. The entire meeting lasted less than 30 minutes. I didn't give them any room to negotiate. I directly announced my price. I'm purchasing all core assets of Story Group at the price of $1, and assuming all of its debt. The price was humiliating. but no one dared object. Everyone understood clearly, if Swallow Capital didn't step in, the only path left for Story Group was bankruptcy liquidation, where they would lose everything. I agree. I agree as well. One by one, the shareholders raised their hands like soldiers lining up to surrender. The final acquisition agreement was placed before me. I picked up the pen and without hesitation signed my name, Cecilia Moo. From that moment forward, Story Group was officially renamed Swallow Moo Group, and I was its sole owner. After the meeting, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows watching the traffic below. At some point, Ian came up behind me and wrapped his arms gently around my waist. "How does it feel?" he asked, resting his chin lightly on the top of my head. "Nothing much," I answered honestly. There was no thrill of vengeance, no joy of victory. My heart felt calm, like deep, undisturbed water. Perhaps when I threw away that ring 3 weeks ago, the name Ethan Gu had already died inside me. Everything I did wasn't for him. It was for myself, for that foolish, patient, self-sacrificing version of me that needed to be laid to rest. Just then, something flickered at the edge of my vision. Through the frosted glass of the conference room door, I saw a familiar silhouette, Ethan. He was standing there, hollow-eyed and lost. He was probably told what happened and came for one last, desperate attempt. But the security guards wouldn't even let him inside. He could only stand there like an outsider, watching the empire he once ruled crumble without him. He was watching the empire he once ruled being buried by the woman he looked down on the most and buried by her own hands. Our eyes met through the glass. I saw the bloodshot red in his gaze. I saw the despair tightening his face. I saw his lips trembling, forming silent words. I understood the shape of them. Why? I didn't answer. Instead, I turned and buried my face in Ian Zhao's chest, whispering softly, "Let's go home." "Okay," he murmured. "Let's go home." Ian held me close as we walked away without ever looking back at the man the world had already abandoned. And just like that, everything regarding Ethan Gu settled into dust. The last updates about him came from Linda Lin. She told me that after going bankrupt, Ethan couldn't bear the blow. His mental state deteriorated. As for Wendy Lane, she never married into that European noble family she dreamed of. That old tycoon had only been playing with her. Once the novelty faded, he tossed her aside. She spent all of Ethan's money. With nowhere left to go, she eventually returned home, surviving on scraps of old social connections and drifting through low-end parties, nothing more than a decorative social plaything. Those two people finally received exactly what they deserved. And none of it had anything to do with me anymore. My life unfolded into a completely new chapter. With Ian's help, I quickly reorganized Story Group, now Swallow Moo Group. I cut away the flashy but useless bubble projects and shifted the company's focus to real industry and tech innovation. At the same time, I resolved the long-standing financial problems within the Moo family business. I was busier than ever, yet more fulfilled and happier than I had ever been. Because now, I was no longer living for anyone else. Everything I built belonged to me, and was done for me. Ian Zhou remained my strongest support. He never interfered with my decisions, but whenever I needed it, he gave me the most precise advice. He stayed up late at the office with me, and when I was exhausted, he always prepared a warm late-night meal. Through his actions, he taught me that real love isn't possession or control, but respect, support, and fulfillment. One weekend night, he brought me to the top floor of the villa. It was a fully glass observatory, facing an endless stretch of shimmering stars. "This," he said, "is your gift." Ian pulled out an old leather-bound photo album and handed it to me. Confused, I opened it. The album was filled with pictures of me, from my childhood with braided pigtails to my teenage years in a school uniform, to the version of me who had once been engaged to Ethan Gu. Every single image recorded a stage of my life, and beside each picture was a small note written in firm, steady handwriting. Today she ranked first in her exam. She smiled so hard her eyes curved like crescent moons. Today a boy gave her a love letter. She rejected him. I was relieved. Today she accepted someone's proposal. She looks happy, but I feel that man doesn't deserve her. I'm sad. The last page was a full diary entry, written on the day I got engaged. I saw her again today. She's like a star in the sky, bright, distant. And I am only a follower of light, standing on the ground. I don't know how long I must wait, but I will keep waiting, because she is my star. My tears finally broke loose, falling onto the album in heavy drops. I looked up at him, through blurred vision. Ian? He cupped my face gently with warm fingertips, wiping my tears away. Then he pulled me into his arms, resting his chin atop my head. His voice was deep and warm like a cello vibrating in the still, star-filled night. Back then, I could only watch my star from far corners of the world. His arms tightened around me, as if he wanted to draw me into his very bones. But now, he whispered, lowering his head, he pressed a reverent, tender kiss to my lips. Now I can finally hold my entire sky. I closed my eyes and rose onto my toes, kissing him back with all the fire in my heart. Outside, the stars were blazing, the light stretching across the endless night. And I knew I had finally found the man who could stand beside me and share the whole sky. Our story was only beginning.